Vince McMahon loves to try new ideas, or ideas that had already existed but are redone for better results. In this case, he tried bringing back his old Cruiserweight division, the one that had some success back in the Ruthless Aggression age and was dying to be brought back. 9 years after the old Cruiserweight division sputtered and died, Vince McMahon wanted to try the idea once more. But unlike back then, it didn't turn out so well. Superstars left in droves, pre-show antics, and dead crowds. Today, I will tell the story of the ill-fated 205 Live era of WWE's Cruiserweights. Before we fully get into it, we've got to introduce WWE's first core of Cruiserweights, beginning with WWE's Cruiserweight Classic, the precursor to the division and the home of where the first Cruiserweight champion of the new era was crowned. Most of the participants in the Cruiserweight Classic were not involved in 205 Live or the new division at all. Those men were Alejandro Saiz, Anthony Bennett, Clement Petiot, Damac, Damian Slater, Fabian Aichner, who went directly to NXT, Gerv and Harv Sira, who formed the Singh brothers as a manager team to Jinder Mahal, Ho Ho Lun, Jason Lee, Johnny Gargano, who also bypassed straight to NXT, Kenneth Johnson, Kota Ibushi, who went back to New Japan, Raul Mendoza, who went straight to NXT, Sean Maluta, Tajiri, Tommaso Ciampa, who went to NXT with Gargano, Tyson Dukes, and Zack Sabre Jr., leaving a hardy group of 13 men from the Classic that did make it into the Cruiserweight division. We will be well acquainted with these men over this video, so let's introduce them. Akira Tozawa, Arya Daivari, Brian Kendrick, Cedric Alexander, Gran Metalik, Gentleman Jack Gallagher, Lindsay Dorado, Mustafa Ali, Noam Dar, Rich Swann, TJ Perkins, Tony Nese, and Drew Gulak. Remember all these names, because there is a good chance I'll bring them up later. The inaugural Cruiserweight champion of this new era was TJ Perkins. His reign lasted 46 days from the day he won it on September 14th, 2016, the final day of the Cruiserweight Classic, to October 30th of 2016, the day of his first title defense at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view that year. At this moment, the entire division was slapped onto 3-hour slugfests on Monday Night Raw, sitting tightly packed in between segments to air out crowds. Nothing big was happening just yet, just a lot of building and setting the stage. At Hell in a Cell, TJ lost the belt to Brian Kendrick, who would go on to have one of the shortest reigns in the belt's history at 30 days. Now, we get into the nitty-gritty. As on November 29, 2016, 205 Live was established and was used as a companion show to the Cruiserweights already being showcased on Raw. In the inaugural episode, the title changed hands once more, this time to Rich Swann. The division made a huge wave in a big way at the next pay-per-view, ROADBLOCK End of the Line, on December 18, 2016. Former Breakout Star of the Year Slammy Award winner and grossly underused star player Neville came out to congratulate Swann on his victory in a triple threat match against both former champions, to which he attacked Swann and Perkins. Neville was a very important piece to the division, mainly because he was the first superstar plucked from the main roster and moved to 205 Live, but also because he became one of the most dominant stars the division had ever seen. Victory after victory landed him a dance with Rich Swann at the Royal Rumble on January 29, 2017, and in front of 50,000 people in a packed Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas, Neville won the Cruiserweight Championship. His reign would be the longest in the belt's history, holding it for an unprecedented 197 days. Through his run, Neville's star shone bright over a much fouled Cruiserweight division. He had defenses against Jack Gallagher at Fastlane and Rich Swann again the following night on Raw, until finding his next rivalry with former TNA World Champion and noted prick Austin Aries. Formerly an NXT guy, an injury sidelined him to announcing duties on 205 Live. But once he was healed, he wanted to challenge for Neville's championship, setting off the first real big feud in the title's history. Over 3 pay-per-views, WrestleMania, Payback, and Extreme Rules, the two clashed. Match 1 was taken by Neville. Match 2 was a no contest due to Neville pulling the shirt of the referee, getting DQ'd and keeping his belt. And match 3 was a submission match, won clean by Neville after putting Aries in the rings of Saturn. This would not be the end of Aries on our television screens, which in fact was a huge lie, because Aries would ask for his release in July. This was the first real shot in the arm for the Cruiserweights. It was a stark reminder of where they ranked on the card and how important they were to weekly programming. No merch outside of Neville, low viewership, and a lack of a true leader in the division really hurt the ill-fated cruiserweights, and Aries leaving would be the first of many casualties in the cruiserweight division. Although it may just be Aries' history of being a sore loser and leaving the company after being denied the title, or maybe because the feud was a bit too one-sided. Our story continues. Against all odds, Akira Tozawa became the next challenger for Neville. At Great Balls of Fire, Neville retained. Then, Tozawa began riding with a group called Titus Worldwide, headed by WWE's punching bag, Titus O'Neil, and also featuring my boy Apollo Crews and secretary Dana Brooke. Tozawa challenged Neville for the belt on Raw, the week before the title match scheduled for SummerSlam. And in one of the biggest mistakes in the entire division, Akira won the belt from Neville, ending our King's reign effectively and giving Tozawa his first smell of Cruiserweight gold. I say it was a mistake, mainly because it felt like it wasn't really needed, or even in this case, it didn't feel like the right time, and in the grand scheme of things, never mattered. Neville won the belt back anyway a week later at SummerSlam, so there was no use to let Neville drop the belt then, just to end his reign at the top of the division. But the idea kinda sank. The Monday after SummerSlam, another big mistake waltzed over to 205 Live. Enzo Amore, a superstar known for his braggadocious mic talk and not his wrestling, became the third wrestler to move to 205 Live. He was mostly carried by his tag team partner Big Cass for his whole career, but with the team breaking up and Cass now injured long term, ending their feud, the best answer was to bring down Enzo to 205 Live. Even worse, so Enzo beat Neville dirty at No Mercy. Becoming the new Cruiserweight Champion. Now being overtaken as the big heel in the division, Neville suddenly turned babyface and attacked Enzo the day after. On 205 Live, he faced Arya Daivari but was attacked by Enzo with a crutch. Little did we know this would be Neville's final appearance on WWE programming. On October 9th, 2017, Neville walked out on an episode of Monday Night Raw, allegedly refusing to lose against Amore again in a lumberjack match. This mystery would plague the division and leave a bad stench wavering over it for a while. Neville, a month later, was in positive talks with the company on returning, but his contract was frozen in January, until they could come to a conclusion. 8 months later, Neville was free from his stasis and released from the company, finally allowed to go wrestle for other companies, putting an end to his cruiserweight run. So, 2 casualties, both superstars that moved to 205 Live from other parts of the company. At this stage, all 13 original cruiserweights remained, but the casualties would pile up soon enough. Enzo's first feud as the champion was against another main roster acquisition, former US champion Kalisto. At this point, 205 Live was peddling on name recognition alone, not wanting to introduce fans to new stars and effectively rendering them all meaningless. The day Neville walked out, Kalisto was announced as the new opponent for Enzo Amore, winning the belt and becoming the champion for the first time in his career. He'd lose it back to Enzo at TLC at the end of the month, in a shockingly decent match. Enzo would collect a few heels for his new stable, the Zoe Train, which took over 205 Live for a few months. In the time, 205 secured another former NXT star in Hideo Itami. While in NXT, he was derived from opportunities because he was always injured. At the Survivor Series kickoff show, in a rematch against Kalisto, Enzo retained the belt and would have his last pay-per-view match. As in January of 2018, he was coming down with a bad case of influenzo. Sorry. The same month, Enzo was suspended following sexual assault violations. His defense against Cedric Alexander at the Rumble was scratched off, and a day later, a woman accused him of rape. And out he went. Enzo was fired from the company as its Cruiserweight champion, the third casualty the division had suffered. But things would continue to ramp as a month before, in December, Rich Swann was arrested on accounts of domestic abuse. And in February, he was also let go by WWE, the fourth casualty suffered by the division in less than a year. Keep in mind, every single original cruiserweight in the division is still here. outside of Rich Swann. In the days that followed, the division flew away from Raw and instead remained exclusively on 205 Live, trying to fix their image. They hired former TNA mainstay Rockstar Spud as the new general manager and held a championship tourney to crown the new champion, en route to a title match at WrestleMania 34. And now, the division began to shift away from name recognition and tried building stars out of the true workhorses of the brand, in the process also bringing in former NXT Tag Team Champion Buddy Murphy, who lost 25 pounds in order to qualify for the brand. The tourney came to a head at WrestleMania 34's kickoff show, where Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali, two known workhorses for the brand, squared off in the Superdome in New Orleans, where Cedric Alexander won and became the new Cruiserweight champion. Finally, a champion to believe in. Live was becoming an underground phenomenon. After securing another former NXT talent in Leah Rush, they once again had a very solid showcase of wrestlers and compelling, interesting characters to help the brand get recognized. But something still didn't feel right, and it may have something to do with their spot on the cards. 205 Live was a great showcase of talent, but all of their big pay-per-view matches have been kicked to the pre-show, which in my opinion is criminal. Sacrificing some easy showcasing and instead putting matches on the main show that should have been featured on the kickoff, with cruiserweight matches sometimes not even making it onto shows. A sad era considering the division was putting in some serious work now, only to have it all be burned away at the whisk by WWE's apathy towards them. Considering how big they have gotten, they still never felt whole. Every week, dazzling the audience online and in the arena with various hardcore matches and great performances by all the Cruiserweight faithful. The next time we would see Cruiserweights on pay-per-view was indeed at SummerSlam 2018, on the kickoff show, when Cedric Alexander defended the belt and retained against Drew Gulak, indeed one of the most underrated superstars on the entire roster. But the main feud for Cedric Alexander was Buddy Murphy. And in front of his home country of Australia, to a huge ovation in October of 2018, he won the belt at Super Shodown, capping off a pretty solid reign by Cedric. In this time, Mike Kanellis joined the brand and became one of the most impressive signees, but contract disputes pushed him away from 205 Live and moved him on to Raw, where he spent time going for the company's 24/7 championship. He and his wife were released on April 15, 2020, as a result of cost-cutting measures. Daniel Bryan, a wrestler on SmackDown, lobbied to Vince McMahon that SmackDown needed a new young babyface, as the existing ones were all pushing 40 years old and have already been in the spotlight for a while. So Vince plucked workhorse and important superstar to the division who had been putting in a lot of work, Mustafa Ali, and moved him to SmackDown in December of 2018, resulting in the first 205 Live graduate to the main roster and the first one not to leave the brand on bad terms. Mustafa Ali would get a pinfall victory over Daniel Bryan, who was the world champion at the time, and eventually qualify for a championship chamber match in March, but an injury last minute switched his place with 11-year WWE mid-card showman Kofi Kingston, whose unwavering ability and workhorse persona put him on the fast track to WrestleMania and a date with Destiny as he won the WWE Championship. Mustafa Ali had his name shortened to just Ali, lost crucial championship matches, and after being dumped by Seth Rollins at Survivor Series in 2019 and humiliated by Brock Lesnar at that year's Money in the Bank, Mustafa wrestled on dark matches and was plucked off of TV. He has yet to return. Back to 205 Live now. Buddy's reign was one of the best in recent times, beating out guys like Hideo Itami, Akira Tozawa, and former NXT mainstay Humberto Carrillo before losing his championship to Tony Nese, who had been grinding on the brand since the beginning and won a tourney to crown the #1 contender at the kickoff show to WrestleMania 35. Nese had a worrisome reign that never led anywhere until being defeated 2 months later by Drew Gulak at the kickoff to Stomping Grounds in June. The exclusivity on 205 Live was beginning to wear thin though, as the brand took some nasty hits in the previous few months. Hideo Itami left the company in February after creative disputes and returned to Japan, debuting in New Japan Pro Wrestling, winning the Never Openweight Championship and becoming a member of the Bullet Club. Another man to leave 205 Live in 2019 was TJ Perkins, the first Cruiserweight champion, also because of allegedly creative disputes. In their places were the former managers of Jinder Mahal and Cruiserweight Classic participants, the Singh brothers, who wrestled in tag action frequently. Buddy Murphy left in April after a year and a half on the brand and made it to the main roster on SmackDown. He was barely used, moved to Raw during the draft, had a mini feud with Aleister Black, teamed with Seth Rollins, and won the tag team titles with him. He recently lost a Money in the Bank qualifier with Rey Mysterio. Cedric Alexander was also slapped on the main roster in April and has had a pretty sad run so far, losing to the likes of AJ Styles and Aleister Black. He now resides in a tag team with Ricochet. And Noam Dar moved exclusively to NXT UK, probably to get some more TV time. In October of 2019, 205 Live's main reasons for existing were sapped away. Many talent moved to the main roster as a result of the 2019 WWE Draft. Tozawa and Carrillo moved to Raw, while Rockstar Spud and Drew Gulak were moved to SmackDown, depleting the brand of its general manager and 3 of its key stars. The championship's exclusiveness to 205 Live also withered away, now being eligible to be defended on the NXT brand and being renamed to the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. Its first champion, while now being NXT bound, was former 205 Live mainstay Lio Rush, who had bebopped in between stints in NXT and 205, to Raw, where he was lay hype man for Bobby Lashley. He held the belt for a few months before dropping it to Angel Garza on December 11, 2019. Lio Rush would be held off of TV and be released as a part of cost-cutting measures in April of 2020. Garza's reign was also short, as on Worlds Collide at the end of January of 2020, he was defeated in a 4-way match between himself, Isaiah Swerve Scott, Travis Banks, and Jordan Devlin, with Devlin pinning Scott and sealing the victory. As of this very moment, Devlin is the current champion, holding the belt for an ongoing 90 days as of me writing this script. He has yet to defend this belt due to a travel ban forcing him to be stuck in England. At this moment, an interim champion is being decided. Thus ends the ill-fated story of 205 Live. As of right now, 6 men remain on the active roster: Arya Daivari, Brian Kendrick, Jack Gallagher, the Singh brothers, and Tony Nese. And with the 205 Live now being a part of NXT, the roster means nothing. Tyler Breeze, among others, have made appearances, but the days of 205 Live being important are definitely over. A lot of bad decision-making and bad luck killed off a hot brand before it could really touch ground, and its last days will be forever forgotten by WWE's carelessness to continue on with the brand. I'm happy a lot of the stars were showcased by the brand, but I'm sad with how WWE's been treating them nowadays, due to Vince's continuous backpedaling when trying to build them. I love 205 Live. There was an age where they felt important to WWE TV and the overall state of the product. But not anymore. Now they feel sort of like an afterthought. I hope in the times that follow, the Cruiserweights begin building themselves right back up again. Right now it looks like they're heading in the right direction, but only time will tell where they end up.